Hello, this is Charity McKenzie, and this video I'm going to go over word problems or applications of linear equations. This is for Math 108. Could be section 2-3. It could be a different section depending on the textbook. I can't remember the other textbook section number or name on this one, but let's look at some word problems. These tend to be what people struggle with the most. So let's look at this first one I have here. It says, the companies with top revenue in the Fortune 500 list for 2009 were ExxonMobil and Walmart. Their revenues together totaled $848.5 billion. Walmart's revenues were $37.3 billion less than ExxonMobil's revenues. What were the revenues for each corporation? So when you see a problem like this, you start with reading it, and then you go, well, shoot, what do I not know? I need a letter for those. So what I thought of was I would like to use X for Exxon's revenue and W for Walmart's revenue. So I start with, what do I not know? I need a letter for those. Okay, and then from here we think about the information we have and what we are missing. So I would start with, well, I know that the two revenues have to add up to 848.5 billion. So in using our letters we just formed, that'd be like X plus W has to equal 848.5. We know that those together equal that. The other thing that we know is that Walmart's revenues were this 37.3 billion less than ExxonMobil's revenue. So there's two ways to think of that one. The way I think about it is Walmart's less, right? So if I take Walmart and I add the 37.3 billion, it has to equal Exxon's. You could have thought about it written as Exxon minus 37.3 equals Walmart. That's going to get you the same result. It really depends on how you think about that problem. From here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to think, well, this is solved for X already. So what if I take this and I substitute it in here? Then I would only have one letter, which would be a linear equation. You don't want two letters. I guess it's linear if it has two letters too. But anyway, you want it to have one letter so you can solve for one of the letters. So I'm going to write that out. That would make W plus Walmart plus 37.3 plus Walmart would equal 848.5. So I substituted that in for X. Some of you could have just thought of this instantly. It really depends on how you think through the problem. Then from here, W plus W is 2W. Then I want to go ahead and take the 848.5 minus the 37.3. I'm cheating. I'm using a calculator. I guess it's not totally cheating, but so subtract that over so that you get 811.2. So we're here. Now divide that by 2, and I get Walmart's to be not what I got on here. 848 point, oops, maybe that's why. 811.2 divided by 2 is 405.6. This is in billions. And then how could we find Exxon's? Well, we know that Walmart's plus 37.3 has to equal Exxon, or that Exxon was 37.3 more. So if I add 37.3 to this one, I could get 442.9. And we could check our answer. Let's see. We could check them by adding these two together. Do they equal 848.5? Yes. Is Walmart 37.3 less than Exxon? Yes. So that's kind of how you check your answer. So this is the process I'd like you to think through. What do I not know? I need a letter for it. What do I know? I knew these two bits of information. I put those together to solve the problem. Okay, then I take my answer and I see if it's realistic. Sometimes we switch them. Sometimes we have little errors. So checking your answer is something we just get excited we're done, and then we don't really check our answer. Another problem here that I found It says in 1995, the average cost of tuition and fees at a public four-year university in the United States was $2,811 for full-time students. By 2009, it had risen approximately 150% to the nearest dollar. What was the approximate cost in 2009? So there's a couple ways again that you could think about this problem, but um, and this is funny because this is when I went to college, and this really is a big difference. This is about what I paid. Actually, it was less than that per semester. Way different now. So let's think about what 150% mean. You could think through that and think, well, I need 100%, which would be this full amount, plus, more the 50% more. The way I think about it is if I have 2,811 and I times it by the percent, which I move the decimal two places, which would make 1.5, what would that give me? Well, let's see. So 2811 times 1.5, that's going to give me $4,216.05. That is 150% more. So full-time by 200 risen. Now, what would be it? So the thing that this question and why I picked this one is sometimes this would be your answer, but in this one it's a little bit tricky. It says it has risen this much more. This is how much more it has risen, right? So you have to add that back to your original to get the new price. If you've risen that much, this is your risen price. So I have to then take 4,216.5 and I have to add it back to 2,811 to get my new amount of $7,027.50. It once it rounded to the nearest dollar, so that would give me 7,200 or 2,800 $7,028. So put dollar symbol on there. So you have to be really careful of what the problem's asking. And again, I picked this one because it seems so easy. Oh yeah, 1.5, so it's double and then some. So you can get this number pretty easy, but you don't always remember then to add back the original to where you get the full amount there. Now the next problem comes up like, oh, I don't know, all the time. It's a chemistry problem. Let me see, that kind of shines through, so I'm going to get a new piece of paper. See that through there. In chemistry class, I have 12 liters of 12% alcohol solution that has to be mixed with a 20% solution to get a 14% solution. How many liters of 20% solution are needed? Okay, so what am I looking for? What do I know? What do I not know? Well, what I don't know on this one is how many liters of the 20% solution are needed. So I'm going to let X equal the liters, of 20% solution. So the last one I didn't really have a letter to define, but this one I define my letter. The way I want you to think about these chemistry problems is I want you to think about like it is going to be the amount times the percent. So you're going to have amount, sometimes has an N, times percent plus your amount times percent equals your total amount times total percent. Why am I putting that out like that? Is because most people mess this up. I'm mixing two. That's my amounts mixed with my percent here to get my total goal amount and my total goal percent. This says an L or a T instead of an L, but that's all right. So what are we mixing? Well, we're mixing 12 liters with 12%. So let's write that out. So we would have 12 liters times 12%. Move your decimal 2 places. Maybe I'll put the 0 in front just so that that looks a little prettier. And I want to add that to 20% solution, but I don't know how much of that solution I have. So it would be x times my 20%, which I moved the decimal and made it 0.20, and it has to equal my goal. Well, my goal is 14% solution. And here's where the tricky part is, the total amount. I don't know the total amount. I know I have 12 liters of the first one and X of the second one, and I want to times that by the 14%. So you have to set it up with like amount, percent, total amount, total percent. It doesn't matter what letter is missing, you still set it up in the same manner. Now let's simplify this. So we can multiply this. This would give me 1.44. I like the 2.20 in front of the x, so I'm actually going to write that as 0.2x. And I got to distribute this over here. I like it written in front, but whatever. We would get 1.68 plus, we'd have the 0.14x. Now we got to get those two x's together, right? So I'm going to subtract those together. So which way do I want to go? It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to subtract the 1.4x over here, 0.14x. So 2 minus 0.14, excuse me, I mean 0.2 minus 0.14 is going to give you 0.006. So here I get 0.0, not 00, just 0.06. And I still have my 1.44 and I have my 1.68. So I moved over my x. Now I got to subtract the 1.44 over to the other side also. So I have 0.06 equals 1.68 minus 1.24 is 0.24. Then I divide by the 0.068, 0.06. I keep messing up what I'm saying. If I'm writing something different than what I'm saying, goodness gracious. So I divide, and I would get 4 is my answer. So what is that 4 really standing for? It's really standing for 4 liters of the 20% solution. And so you need to recognize this is 4 liters of that 20% solution. So, and it's reasonable, 4 and 12. You'd need less of the 20% solution to get the 14%, because you know your overall goal was 14% solution. And you're mixing it with 12 and 20, obviously more 12 is going to be used than 20. So you can logically think through and think about whether your answer is correct. And you're going to see this type of problem come up a lot with different pieces missing. Sometimes it's over here, sometimes it's over here. Get this general idea down and practice this problem until you really understand it. All right, that's it for this video.